This is a Hanukkah story entitled The Sign Language Debate. It takes place in a small country in Eastern Europe in the early 1600s. Once upon a time there was this country, and it was ruled by a truly evil king. Around the time of year of Hanukkah, he had decided he'd had enough. His economy was failing and things were going poorly for his country, and he decided, like many rulers, to blame it on someone, and the easiest person or group for him to blame were the Jews. So he decided that he would challenge a member of the Jewish community to a sign language debate. And if that person could answer all three questions in sign language, well, the Jews could stay. But if he missed one question, just one, then the Jews would have to leave this little country. So he made his pronouncement, and that night there was a meeting of the Jewish community, and they didn't know what to do. The rabbi stood up and said, "How can we argue? It's in sign language. We don't know what the questions are going to be." He goes, "We don't stand a chance. What are we to do? Who will volunteer to represent us in this debate?" And no one would raise their hands except for a little man in the very back, Haim, the little chicken man. He said, "Well, if no one will do it, I guess I will." And he did. The next day, the king had made a big stage in the middle of the town. And there he was waiting with his ministers and confidants. And Haim, the little chicken man, walked up the steps and walked towards the king. And the king looked at Haim and said, "All right, little man, I will ask you 3 questions in sign language. And if you answer all 3 correctly, you may stay, and all the Jews may as well. But if you miss just one question, you will be spending Hanukkah somewhere else." He was that confident. And now, here is my first question. He put his fist up like this, then put up his other hand in a ball. And he came at Haim's face with his fingers like that, and Haim brought his fist up and went, "Oh," said the king, "you're right. That answer was right. And now, for my second question." The king took both fingers and moved them towards Haim's face like this, and Haim raised one finger and blocked it like that. The king said, "You're right again." He said, "Question number 3. And he reached into his pocket and he took out a hunk of moldy, rotting cheese that sifted through his fingers. And Haim looked at the king and reached in his pocket and pulled out an egg. The king was taken aback. He said, "You're right." He said, "You may stay, the Jews may stay and spend Hanukkah here in this country." He said, "You answered all 3 questions." Haim turned around with a befuddled look on his face and walked back to the community. That night, there was a big party in the castle. And the king's ministers came up to him and said, "How did he win? What were the questions? What did he do to win this?" And the king said, "Whew," he said, "the Jews, they had this little chicken man, and he knew the answers to all my questions." He said, "First, I said, when I raised my hand up to this, I said, the Jews are spread out all over the world and there's no solidarity to them." And he raised up his fist to say, "Yes, we are one." Then I took 2 fingers and went for his eyes with them. And I said, "There are 2 kings, the king in heaven and the king on earth." And he held up his finger to say, "There is only one." And then I pulled out a piece of moldy cheese and held it up in front of him to show him that the Jews were rotting from within and falling apart. And he went to his pocket and pulled out an egg to show that they were solid as ever and being reborn always. That was incredible. He knew he knew how to answer. Well, all the ministers shook their heads and walked away, and the king laid his head down. Now, meanwhile, in another part of town, in the Jewish ghetto, everyone was happy, and they were having a big party, and Haim was standing with the Rebbe. And the rabbi said, "Haim," he said, "how did you know what to answer?" He goes, "You answered all 3 correctly." And Haim said, "I don't know." He said he went to hit me with his fist. I blocked it. He was going to poke my eyes out. I had a finger up to block that. Then he went to his pocket and he pulled out his cheese. I pulled out an egg and figured we could be friends and have lunch together.